In our first story, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has sworn in former Minister of Water Works and Housing, Water Resources Works and Housing, under the erstwhile Kufuor administration, Hackman Osei-Agyeman, as the board chairman of the Ghana Cocoa Board. Hackman Osei-Agyeman takes over from the immediate past board chairman of Cocoa Board, Daniel Ohinie-Jekum, who served as an Ashanti regional minister in the Rawlings administration and also the ambassador to the United States of America under the Mills administration.
We have our job cut out for us, but we know that with the backing of the president and the brief and the remit that he's given us, we will rise to the occasion. But having said that, we need to appreciate all the points that the president articulated. For example, the cocoa prices are falling from about $3,200 per ton to now around $2,200. We've lost a whopping $1,000 per ton. So on the back of a production of 850,000 tons, we've lost $850 million. That is some of the problems that we have to cope with. Again, the syndicated loan of $1.8 million that we had hoped to use for this production year, unfortunately, Mr. President, is all gone. And we are yet to finish the purchase of the crops. So it falls on us to immediately try and organize some financing to carry on the process. The declining in production exacerbates the situation. Just as farmers also, the president said, are selling their crops to Galamsey. And smuggling at the borders, also a source of great concern, Mr. President. Huge indebtedness, and I mean huge indebtedness of the sector of the Cocoa Board is something that we really have to tackle. Indeed, when you look at it, then the indebtedness or the huge debt overhang of the government itself becomes pales into insignificance. But we have to start do that. Mr. President, we could not agree with you more when you made the point that the cocoa farmers themselves have not been the major beneficiaries of the proceeds from the cocoa. We intend, as a board, to ensure that we are the friends, the advocates for the farmers, the thousands and hundreds of thousands of farmers, and we shall so do, Mr. President, and revert the situation whereby those who produce cocoa will benefit from it. We will rationalize expenditures and establish models for moving the industry forward.
Former President John Dramani Mahama has revealed he almost quit politics to go into private business back in 2008, but had to stay in public service because the NDC at the time and the late President John Mills won the presidential elections that year. The former president made the revelation at the first official reading of his book, My First Coup d'etat at the University of Ghana here in Accra. He, however, declined to comment about his future political ambition when Joy News' Latif Idris asked him if he has abandoned politics to concentrate on writing books. And the former president, however, hinted that he is working on a second book, but would not tell when it will be completed. My First Coup d'etat, according to the former president, is also published in Portuguese.
My dad started as a teacher, and I always thank God for who I am, because I'm what I am by a fate of accident. In this story, you see the district commissioner's hat and how my dad ended up going to school. because he was standing outside his grandfather's palace. His grandfather was the chief, and he had a big navel. And the district commissioner was passing, and he squeezed my father's navel. And of course, it's painful. And so my father lashed out, and the district commissioner's hat fell. And so he picked it and took a look at the boy, cleaned his hat, and he went into my grandfather's hat. And so on the day, they came and took the boy away and sent him to school. And that's how he became educated. So he left politics and went into business and was very successful in business. And so that had been my intention in 2008. I thought I was leaving politics and also going into the private sector. But like I said, God guides our steps, and I am where I am today.
Indeed, God guides our step. I believe that too. Well, let's look at the story. Former British Prime Minister Tony Blair is advocating the breaking down of trade barriers between African and Western markets. According to Mr. Blair, that is what we need to do to level the playing field in trade on the global market. Adding, what is left is a will to implement this policy, which will also strengthen African economies in the area of trade. Speaking at a press briefing under the auspices of the Institute of Economic Affairs, he also noted that the ultimate success of African countries lied in the hands of Africa.
Ghanaian people are respected people. This country has huge potential. It's got resources that it can develop and exploit. And what is necessary is that it sets the country on the right path now to take the difficult decisions and to improve the lives of people. And if we can help from the governance initiative in any way with that process, we will. But I'm very confident about Ghana. I think the Ghanaian people should be confident about the country. And right now is the moment for understanding that potential and developing it, and knowing that whatever the challenges, there is a genuine opportunity if the correct decisions are taken and the right focus is there. Aid is important, and as I say, when I was Prime Minister, we trebled aid. But today you can learn the lessons of good governance from around the world. You know, for example, if you're trying to bring in investment, you need a minimum of bureaucracy, you need transparent rules, you need to make sure that you're fighting things like corruption, you need to make sure that you're developing the infrastructure so that business can come in. These are lessons that around the world where they're applied, countries succeed. And yes, of course, you've got to open up Western markets as well. And actually, Britain, which is still part of the European Union as we speak, you know, we have been advocating within Europe a much more open approach to African trade. So yes, of course, you need to knock down those trade barriers with the West, but by the way, you also need to knock down some of the trade barriers, tariff and non-tariff, between the neighboring countries. You know, there's so much more that could be done in the trade that goes across this part of Africa. So all of these things, what I'm saying is we kind of know what we should do. The challenge is doing it. And whatever sector you're talking about, industrialization, the power sector, agriculture, the great thing is to learn the best lessons from around the world, what's working, what's not.
The Ghana cedi continues to make some strong gains on the interbank market. It opened trading at 4 Ghana cedis, 21 pesos on Tuesday, but closed at around 4 Ghana cedis, 30 pesos. Analysts are already attributing the cedi's record performance in just a week to a sharp decline in demand for dollars to support a lot more imports. So what kind of monetary and fiscal measures should be implemented to sustain this performance? Amagate is the president of ACI, an association made up of bank treasurers and currency dealers.
Budget was read. There was renewed confidence in the economy. It was generally received positively by the external investors. And so we saw that the exits from the market stopped, and we actually had external investors trying to invest back into the market. If my memory serves me right, the last 3-year bond had about 46% participation from external investors. And with the inflows from the external investors, it had a positive impact on us. So we saw our city starting to appreciate. So there's a bit of speculation. They are of the opinion that rates will continue to fall. So we see that there is no demand on the market.
So basically, if I also get you, most of these businesses that are exposed to dollars or are dealing in dollars are more of a wait and see because they think that things will appreciate. So they're not demanding more for dollars.
At all. So there's almost no demand in the market at the moment. I mean, normally, with the normal trend, April is quite slow because we find that people have already imported against Easter already. And then it picks up again in May or June. And then in August, it picks up really well because people are trying to stock up for Christmas. But now that everybody is kind of waiting to see what's going to happen, there's no demand even in March. So we think that the rate will continue to trend downwards. Today on the interbank markets, we are trading around 4.36, 4.37. I guess market dynamics will decide whether it's sustainable or not. But I wouldn't say it is forced. It is not. So it is really market dynamics playing a part in this. So I think it is sustainable.
The chief warlord of the Ga State, Captain Nseni Ni Mankata IV, has given the king makers of the Ga State a one-month ultimatum to adore the legitimate king of the state. This, he says, is to help bring back the lost glory of the Gas and also restore some dignity, sanity to the Ga Traditional Council. He says failure to comply with the demand will lead to the warlords turning their guns on the kingmakers.
Within a shortest time, I urge the four ruling houses which made the kingmakers of the Ga State to give me and my Asafwachem and Asafwacheme and the Ga State, the Gamanche, within a month. They should let me know the Gamanche I'm going to work with. I cannot be in my palace every day. I cannot call myself Asafwache without a manche, a Gamanche. That is why I have invited you here this morning to let the public, each and everyone who matters in the Ga State, to hear what I am saying. I said I need Gamanche within 1 month from now. If they don't do so, I and my Asafwachem and Asafwacheme will bring fire to them. The fire which I sent to the Angunas and the Ashantis, I will give it back to them. So I urge them within now and the ending of April, I want to see Gamanche.
And already several persons have since laid claim to the Gamanche stool in recent years, especially since the passing of Nia Mugi II in 2007. This, Asafwache Ni Mankata says, is the doing of some politicians who, he says, use money to influence them for political gains and thus want them to desist from the practice.
Money has come to stay and play a major role in our institution. Politicians now tell us who should be the Gamanche and who is the Gamanche and who they recognize. The politicians cannot recognize anybody who has not gone through customary rights to be called Gamanche, to be invited to state programs because it's their favor or is their man. Politicians cannot choose a Gamanche for us. I don't get myself out of it. I was one time a politician, a parliamentary candidate, but today I speak as Asafwache, the warrior king, to lead my people to the promised land. I don't fear and I will say it again, politicians to get out from our institution.
And that's it for the news tidbits. We have a lot more of the news as we interact among ourselves, as we look at the newspapers, the front pages as we have them, and we'll look at the online portals. I'll be joined by Mama Vio Sobwaje soon.